This is cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war that has created complete mayhem in the global markets. And the reality of it is this, that quite apart from stock markets going down, you're going to unleash huge inflation, particularly on the US consumer.
Now, don't panic is the instruction from President Trump after markets dropped sharply today in reaction to his tariffs. Now, in the last half hour, we've already told you the New York Stock Exchange opened and continued that trend. In the UK, the FTSE 100 plunged by 6% this morning. But the American president is showing no sign of changing his mind, telling his fellow Republicans not to be a panican, which he defines as a new party based on weak and stupid people. He says his tariffs should have been brought in decades ago, and that if the US is patient, capital G greatness will be the result. Not everyone is still with him, though. One billionaire supporter warning of a self-inflicted economic nuclear winter. Terrific. Jack Barnett is the Times economics correspondent. Right, Jack. We should just say, actually, the Dow Jones did fall fairly dramatically when the stock exchange opened, but it seems to have recovered slightly. Anyway, what is the latest? What's going on?
Well, I'm just afternoon both. I've just sort of got the tickets up in front of me at the moment. The FTSE's still down nearly 4% from this morning, which is obviously still, it's pretty sharp, but it's obviously recovered some of its losses from this morning when it was down over 6% at one point. The S&P 500 is down about 2%. So the sort of really pronounced losses that we got immediately at the open in the US this afternoon, and also at the open in Europe this morning as well, probably pared back a little bit. Yeah. But I think the overall sentiment is, again, and I know we sort of spoke about this last week, and lots of people have hammered home this point, is that there is still a lot of uncertainty whether or not this stuff is going to stick around, because lots of analysts this morning, they've obviously had the chance to digest the news which was announced last week from the president. The unanimous decision is, if these tariffs do stay, the likelihood of a recession in the US and probably across the global economy is pretty substantial.
But as I just said, there is no indication that Donald Trump is going to change his mind. In fact, he has form on this. He tends not to change his mind. And he's been a tariff fan for decades. So is he honestly going to front up and say, you know what, I got this wrong? Because that's just not him, is it?
No, it's not. And he has been for decades, obviously, a massive proponent of this tariff policy in order to balance what he thinks is imbalance in the global trading system. I mean, there is some logic behind the sort of method to the madness underneath it. I mean, the theory behind all of these tariffs is that, since the 1990s, there's been a huge expansion of global trade. Lots of production has moved over to Asian economies, and there was a massive expansion of global trade after China sort of entered the global trading network in the early 2000s. That was very, very good for the US because it meant a lot of their big companies could sort of tap into low-cost labor production over in Asia. That's why you've seen a lot of US stocks sort of lead the way over the last 15 years, certainly since the 2008 financial crisis. What these tariffs are trying to do is just make it more costlier for companies to produce outside of the US. So it kind of changes the indicators as to where you should, create your manufacturing base. It should, in theory, raise the incentive for you to create, to produce a new car or a phone in the United States. So there is some method behind the madness. I think the thing that analysts are very, very shocked by is how quick and sudden and sharp that he's gone with some of these policies. There was an argument to be made that he could have phased it in a bit more gradually. It may not have triggered the market declines that we've seen today, but I think there's, one thing President Trump does not do, it's nuance and finesse.
Well, I think you're right there. Jack, thank you very much. Jack Barnett, who is the Times economics correspondent.
Well, let's talk now to Lord Bilimoria, the crossbench peer, former president of the CBI and the founder of Cobra Beer. A very good afternoon from us, Lord Bilimoria. What would you like the UK government to be saying today and then to do?
Yes, let's keep this in perspective. I mean, the last time we had the worst stock market crash in living memory was in 1987, and that's when the FTSE crashed in over 2 days by 23%. Here we're talking about 4, 5, 6, and in certain parts in Hong Kong, 13%. It's all terrible, but that's the worst that we've had. So putting it into context. Next, the United States is looked upon as the guardian of the free world. I mean, with the behavior at the moment, it's destroying the free world. It's not just what you do, but how you do it. If you go back to Liz Truss, her idea for growth was good. Her idea to lower taxes was good. It's the way she went about it that spooked the markets, and she lasted 49 days. Well, here, Donald Trump wants to make a point, and you could argue he has a point, that America has low tariffs and other countries have high tariffs, and it should be a fairer, more level playing field. But let's look at this, please. This is cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war that has created complete mayhem in the global markets. And the reality of it is this, that quite apart from stock markets going down, you're going to unleash huge inflation, particularly on the US consumer. And we've got an integrated market where it's not as simple as importing one product and selling it in the United States. It's integrated. Each product has different parts that come from different countries. So this affects the whole world. So it's not going to work. And we've got to work. And the other thing is you can't, with Liz Truss, she went in 49 days. Donald Trump is here for 4. The American Constitution doesn't enable you to just get rid of a president if you don't like them or don't like what they're doing. He's here to stay. So this is going to be very difficult where the whole world has to work together because America makes up 13% of world trade. Let's keep that in perspective.
Yeah.
87% is all the other countries.
I'm sure everybody hears you. Basically, it's Liz Truss with cheese on top, isn't it, at the moment? When you say it's not going to work, can you just flesh that out a little bit? What do you think that means for business here in the UK?
Yes, and this is the classic, no one is an island and everyone is integrated. Here with us in the UK, we're perfectly poised. If you look at this positively, we had very low tariffs with America, just over 2%. America actually had very low tariffs where we're concerned, just over 2%. Now for us, it's gone up to 10%. And for automobiles and steel, 25%. So for the automobile sector, straight away, Jaguar Land Rover has stopped exporting to the US. This is going to be really, really painful for our luxury car makers. But on the whole, if we keep cool and we take the high ground, we're respected as a trading nation. We're still the 6th largest economy in the world. As chairman of the International Chamber of Commerce, the ICC UK, we're suggesting to the UK, we're focused on trade. Let's modernize our trade. Let's go for digital trade. What takes 3 months of paperwork, do it in 1 hour. Let's get trading costs down by 80%. Let's actually put 24 billion pounds, 25 billion pounds more in trade growth in the UK economy. So our country keeps talking about growth. Now's the time to put in measures to actually increase growth, to show that we're a stable nation. We're not going to pick a fight with the United States of America. Please keep in mind, the United States economy is a giant economy. All 27 EU countries, plus the UK put together, the 28 countries, the American economy is bigger than all of us put together. We don't want to pick a fight with them. Let's work with the rest of the world. And the United States and the EU, let's never forget, Brexit was a huge mistake. It was an act of self-harm. The EU still makes up 45% of our trades, goods and services, imports and exports.
Yeah.
So we need to keep working closely with the EU.
And yes, Sir Keir Starmer has already said when he's talking about trade markets that we're going to need to really maximise. The EU is obviously there. I'd like to pick you up, though, just on what you've said about being able to change the way that we trade. You say that we could change that by 80% if we went completely digital. I confess I don't really understand what you mean by that.
Oh, it's so simple. At the moment, here we are in a modern, digitalized internet world that is now going AI, and soon we're going to have quantum, and the world trade is based on paper. And that paperwork can take 2 to 3 months of transaction time and cost can be cut to 1 hour. And our calculations are, and when we, the UK, have actually launched digital trade. It was the International Chamber of Commerce that launched digital trade. I launched it last year in the City of London. It's something for the whole world to take advantage of, and the UK can take a lead on that. And our calculations are very clear, 80% reduction in trade transaction
So you
cost.
literally mean for every company to be able to be using software instead of using an old-fashioned analog method. Are you saying that the government should be helping out in making that possible for every business? I mean, surely there aren't very many businesses who are literally still getting a piece of paper, photocopying it, stamping it and sending it off with a stamp.
when it comes to trade, unfortunately, it is still as antiquated as that in many ways. And shipping costs can be reduced by 18%. Workforce productivity increased by 60%. This is all proven. The government can take a lead on this and get other countries to work on this. And the whole of global trade will benefit from this. And that's where we can be positive about a situation like this, where we can take the lead.
I also wanted to ask you about some of the things that Sir Keir Starmer said just in his speech at Land Rover this afternoon. And, you know, the guy is in a bind. He is trying to sort out an awful lot of things at the moment. So let's just cut him some slack somewhere. But these very confusing phrases, Lord Bilimoria, now is the time for cool heads, but it's also the time for urgency. We are living in an age of security, but the future is in our hands. What do you make of those kind of sentiments? Did you want to hear something different from him today?
The reality of it is this. The previous government, led by Rishi Sunak, put up taxes to the highest level in 70 years, including corporation tax from 19% to 25%. And this government, since they've been in government since July last year, have gone much further with 40 billion pounds of tax increases, some of that hit yesterday, the national insurance increase of 24 billion pounds, a tax on jobs, a tax on just about every industry. So they have not been tax-friendly or investment-friendly, and they keep talking about growth. And then on top of that, you've got the tariff wars inflicted from outside, from the United States of America. So what are you going to do in a time like this when you've got an anti-growth policies and you want business to survive under fire from all around the world? This is when the UK government has got to be bold and say, we're going to help you business. Actually, when we say we're not going to increase taxes, we want to be a magnet for inward investment. This country was one of the two largest recipients of inward investment in the world. Since Brexit, that has not happened. That has changed. We need to go back to being a magnet for inward investment, and that means having tax-friendly measures. Because if you support businesses, it's the businesses that are going to grow, that are going to pay the taxes, that pay for the public services and the desperate infrastructure improvements that we need as a country.
Right. How do you think we look at the moment on the world stage after this massive kind of etch-a-sketch since Donald Trump's announcement about tariffs? Why would somebody look to us as opposed to some of our European neighbours and say, that's absolutely the country that I'm going to head towards?
Because the UK, before Brexit, was seen as the gateway to Europe. It was seen as a bridge between the United States and Europe. We're seen as the United States' best friend historically. And by the way, that should not change because of this. They should still be our best and strongest ally. This is where we as a country are in that unique position where we're in between the Europe and America, where we're seen as a country that has phenomenal institutional strength, a reputation for trust and fairness, a judicial system that people respect, financial services. Whatever happens, we're one of the top 2 financial services centers in the world. Our universities are the best in the world, along with the United States of America. We should be seen as a safe, stable haven. Yes, the world has not liked this government's policies with regard to raising taxes, and our economy is not doing particularly well at all.
Yeah,
but
so
we
that's
have those other factors going for us.
But that's the problem, Lord Bilimoria, isn't it? I mean, actually, you know, the Labour government does have other tools that it could be utilising. You could have a reversal on the increase in employers' national insurance contributions because this is a time of crisis, and maybe that would be a good thing, a good message to send out to employers across the country. But that isn't anything like what we've heard today, which is actually quite reassuring if you were the type of person who was considering buying an EV in 2030. But that's not everybody, is it?
No, they've got to be realistic and practical. And again, with this transition to net zero as well. Yes, of course, we want to be able to go down that route, but it's a transition. You don't do it in a way where at the moment we have the highest energy costs of just about any country in the world, which makes many of our industries, including steel, chemicals, almost unviable. So we've got to be competitive and we've got to be practical. And we do have to, if we're bold, lower taxes, but do it in a way that the markets respect, not do it in a way that Liz Truss tried to do with irrational exuberance that spooked the markets. If you do it in a sensible way and convincing, if we lower taxes, we're going to get the growth, believe in us, invest in us, that's going to make us an attractive investment destination.
Quick answer to this, and I know it's a massive question, so that might not be possible, but do you really think that we can stay best friends with America?
Absolutely. We have to do that. You know, presidents come, presidents go. But the United States of America will always be our best friend. And I said right at the beginning of this, it's the guardian of the free world. At the moment, it's not behaving like that. We've got to behave as a guardian of the free world because we have to take that high ground, and especially with regard to trade. And I believe America will come back online. No one in America is going to put up with jobs going, costs going up, losing money, pensioners losing money, investors losing money. This is not good. People didn't vote for that.
Yeah, well, you're right there. None of that is in the American dream. Very good to talk to you. Thank you for your time this afternoon, Lord Bilimoria, crossbench peer and the founder of Cobra Beer.
We're going to go to Israel in a moment or two. Now, you did classics at university, didn't you? This is a WhatsApp from a listener who says, as a lawyer, the Prime Minister would be familiar with the Latin phrase festina lente?
Oh, make haste make haste slowly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a classical adage and a classical adage and oxymoron emphasising the importance of careful and deliberate action rather than rushing. It suggests finding a balance between urgency and thoroughness to avoid the pitfalls of rushing into decisions or actions without careful consideration. They knew what they were doing, didn't they, back then?
Yes, in some ways.
Yes, I mean, Caecilius didn't get everything right, that's for sure, and of course he met a very sad end.